Okay, so that's my trip to the grocery store song right there. So now I have my four elements. Of course, you can add to this. You can create more tracks, you can add more instruments, and you can mess around with different sort of things. But this is just basically the basic of how you go about creating your first arrangement, your first song. Now, here's one thing that I find very useful. I find very useful to color code my tracks. Up here, you find your colors and this icon right there. If you don't see it, right click right here. If you right click up here, you can find the color menu and you can check it, activate it, and it will pop up right here. Now, usually I go with the base. For me, it's red. I don't know why. It's just what it is for me. The keyboards, for me, we can do like a nice bluish thing. Drums, I'm gonna go with a orange. And my vocals, which I'm gonna disarm right now, are gonna go into green, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just to create a little bit of a colorful, a colorful differentiation. The next thing I want to do is I want to drag this right here so that I can loop my song and I can work on how it sounds. Okay, so now what I'm do is I'm gonna loop it by pressing the division button on my numpad, or I can press this button right here, which is activate cycle. Okay, now that it's looped, this will continue playing. I went to the grocery store. What I'm trying to do now is to curate my voice a little bit. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay, so now this is looping, and what I want to do is I actually want to go into my mixer window. So in my mixer window, you have this channel right here, which is called the stereo out. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, just because I want to work on my vocals without, like, because I want to talk on top of what I'm doing, and I don't want to be drowned into the sound. I went to the grocery store. Okay, I'm gonna solo the track. Let's go back into the DAW. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Now I have my EQ, and I'm gonna start. I went to working on grocery store. I'm gonna start working on the high frequencies, make this a little more brilliant. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I went to the grocery store. I'm gonna remove my 1K a little bit. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. I went to the grocery store. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press the peak. I'm gonna click here. I bought some bread, some eggs, and what that does is it changes that curve into a peak curve instead of a shelf curve. Because this shelf, what this do is gonna enhance all these low frequencies right here that I don't want to be enhanced. In fact, I don't want them at all. So I want to change to peak, so it only emphasizes, and I'm gonna scroll with my mouse wheel. My mouse wheel is scrolling up and down right now. You can see what it does. It's changing the width and how many frequencies it's going to affect. Some frozen pizza, yeah. So this is going to make your voice muddy. I went to the grocery store. But this is about what I do want. So you want to click on Spectrum 2. So you activate the Spectrum, and it shows you the frequencies that it's actually activating. Some eggs and some frozen pizza, yeah. So actually what I want to do is I want to go back to shelf and cut those low frequencies. I went to the grocery store. And the reason why I'm cutting these low frequencies is because these low frequencies are occupied by the kick drum and are occupied by the bass guitar. So I want to remove as much as this as possible so that I don't get in the way of bass and kick, but enough to retain the low aspect of my voice, which I have a very low voice. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay, let's say that my voice right now, it sounds a little better than before. Let's do an A-B comparison. I went to the grocery store. This is without, and this is going to be with. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay, the difference is subtle, but it is there. By the way, I pressed the bypass, active effect bypass button. If you press it, it's off. If it's highlighted in blue, it's on. Now that we have a little basic equalization done, now let's add instrument to this. And the first conflicting instrument with vocals is usually the mid to high range, which is the Rhodes. Let's go and do the Rhodes. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. I'm going to do the same studio EQ. If you have a better EQ, by all means use a better EQ, but usually I think Steinberg, the basic, uses this one as the EQ. And let's keep listening and let's figure out this Rhodes. The first thing I know about this Rhodes is that it has a low end that needs to be tamed because, again, it gets in the way with bass and guitar. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. I went to... All right, now I'm pretty happy with the result on there. And the first thing I notice is that I want to go back into my mixer, and I want to bring the volume back up because this should always be at 0. Always. Never turn this down or up. This, as a master out, should always be at 0. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to take this piece, arrange it even more, and create groups tracks and mix like that. But so far, we have a little basic understanding of how to mix. Now we have the Rhodes right here. What I want to do is I know that my voice is a little quieter compared to the Rhodes, so I'm going to turn down a little my voice, and then I'm going to turn down the Rhodes a bit. Now I go back into the DAW, and I'm going to check out how that affected it. I went. Oh, and by the way, you can even do this. Bring down the bottom layer of your music, go to Mix Console, and you have the same things right here. Let's do that instead. Went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay, so we got that, and then what I'm going to activate next is the kick drum, or in this case, the drum itself, the track. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. All right, now I'm pretty happy with this balancing right here. I just augmented the vocals a little bit. Yeah. I went to the grocery store. And now I'm going to go in with the bass just to level match it. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some So the bass guitars or lower end instruments occupy a area of frequencies that are very powerful. You see what I mean in a sec. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. some eggs, froze. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Alright, so I'm kind of happy with that thing. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to put some effects on the vocals, just to make it sound a little more acceptable. And then in the next episode, as we talk about like more arrangement and more mixing things, I'm going to actually split the drums into different tracks and curate the sound of those different tracks individually, and that's very easily achievable in any DAW, really. Let's look at this. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Now in the if you have Cubase Essential, you probably have this one, I think, Roomworks, which works very similarly too. So let's use that one. I went to the grocery store. So I'm going to pull the mix all the way down and then slowly pull it up. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Now I'm giving it a little bit of a space. So what I'm going to play with is the timing of that reverb, because the timing is going to determine how long that tail it is. I went to the grocery store. So you can see now it's more lush. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Now, I think that's a little too much, so I'm going to rear it back into like 2 seconds tail. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some What I'm doing right here, it's starting and stopping, so I can check the tail in real time. Of the reverb, and that's what I want to do. I want to check that the tail is actually appropriate for what I want. Okay, and now I'm going to play with the pre-delay a little bit. The pre-delay basically is where, at what point and how delayed is the start of the tail. If you put it all the way down, the reverb will start right away. If you pull it up a little bit, it will start after 28 milliseconds. So it's kind of like, it's kind of offsets at what point the tail starts after the transient has hit. I went to the grocery store. The mix, of course, as you can tell, it basically determines how much of that reverb gets to wet the track. So we talk in terms of wet and dry. So the more mix you put, the wetter is the track, the less reverb, the drier the track is. I went to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store. I bought some bread, some eggs, and some frozen pizza, yeah. Okay, I think that reverb is actually a little too much, so I'm going to rear it down to like 13%. I went to the grocery store. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. What I would do here too is I would push up how long that tail is, and then even push down the mix. I went to the grocery store. Yeah, that works.